Welcome to episode number 45 of Hitting for the Cycle. That's Ben Kruse. I'm Ryan Touhey. I'm back from vacation. Last week, Ben was with Tom Albano, and a couple weeks ago, I was with Tom Albano as well. So now we're back together and doing episode number 45 of Hitting for the Cycle. And Ben, how are you doing?
Doing good, Ryan. It's glad that you're back. Hope you had a good vacation. I know that I took your place. This is obviously in favor of me going on vacation last month. So now both have a vacation under our belt for the summer. And now with pretty much, we're almost at the end of summer this point in time, which is crazy. I kind of want, summer to be almost be over. So I'm not really complaining too much because then we start having fall baseball and all the fun stuff. So hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well as well. Thank you very much. And we're halfway through the month of August already. It's crazy to believe. And we are only a month and a half away from the end of the regular season. And this season just continues to fly by in the blink of an eye. And things are heating up in Major League Baseball. And we got a lot to discuss on today's episode. But before we do, obviously, we just need to remind everybody to please follow Hitting for the Cycle on Facebook, X, and Instagram at HFTC ETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. And of course, finally, listen to us on whatever platforms you get your podcasts on.
And as always, guys, this episode is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. Obviously, we have the WNBA stuff coming up this Sunday, so we have that coming into effect. We have our football forecast streaming on September 7th. So we got football and stuff coming up as well, too. So it should be very exciting.
All right, so we're going to get into it. And a significant piece of news broke just a couple of days ago. Major League Baseball is reportedly discussing a 6-inning minimum for starting pitchers in the near future. This would be obviously a very big move for Major League Baseball. And at first glance, when I saw this article, I just went, you've got to be kidding me. Haven't we had enough rule changes already? I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the rule changes have been for the betterment of the game. But for this right away, I was thinking to myself, how could this possibly be a good thing? And won't there be a lot of flaws with something like this, especially if, you have a starting pitcher who's getting absolutely rocked on the mound? Do you want to see him get rocked for 6 innings? So there are a few exceptions to this rule. Okay, this is coming from Matt Snyder of CBS Sports. He did an article about this. Basically, the report indicates that there would be exceptions to the proposed 6-inning minimum rule. And that is if the pitcher has 100 pitches under his belt, if he's given up 4 or more earned runs, or if he's injured. So if those scenarios occur before the 6th inning, then the manager can yank the starter out of the game. But still, I'm still not thrilled about this possibility. I just feel like you got to let the guy pitch and, get a feel for the game. I mean, not everybody's going to be 100% on, any given day that they pitch. And I just feel like this is unnecessary at this point. But what they're trying to do, basically, is they're trying to limit the amount of injuries that starting pitchers have, because obviously this year we've just seen a bunch of starting pitchers go down with UCL injuries or flexor injuries, so on and so forth. So they want to get a little more offense back implemented in baseball, because baseball has been so dominated by strikeouts over the past couple of years. So they're looking for a way to get, more action going on the field. And in addition to that, they just want pitchers they're trying to reduce the amount of injuries on these pitchers instead of making them focus on their velocity. They want them to focus more on their control aspects of pitching as well. So that's what they're trying to do here. And I don't know if this is necessarily the best way to do it. I don't know. When I looked at this article, it also mentioned how this wouldn't be immediate. This would probably be a few years down the road. This has just been brought up recently, but I can't say that I'm necessarily a fan of it. I just think this is very flawed. And honestly, I think you're kind of putting more pressure on the pitcher's arms by doing this because there's always every game is different, and a pitcher is going to feel different basically with every single game, and there are different circumstances. So yeah, I'm not exactly popular about this decision. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little off air about it beforehand, and pretty much I still feel the same way. In which, 6 innings for a pitcher typically is a very good quality start. And so I think that's one reason to that being kind of a potential rule into place. Um, I mean, I will say that it's for some pitchers they have to kind of work their way up when they're pitching. It doesn't always have to be, consistently 5, 6 innings to the max. So, um, I do think that, this isn't what I want for the pitchers to have is to essentially try to work their way up into 5, 6 innings and then to blow up potentially their arm like that too. So I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and also another thing that kind of I'm curious about is say a starting pitcher comes back after being out with an injury for an unknown amount of at any given amount of time. Usually, when a guy comes back, you kind of want to limit him to maybe 4 innings and maybe 75 pitches, depending on the significance of the injury. Say when Spencer Strider comes back from his Tommy John surgery, he takes him
Right.
out. If I'm the Braves, I'm going to want him to maybe go maybe 4 innings at most and maybe 75 to 80 pitches. I mean, obviously, I don't think the rule would be implemented yet by the time he would get back from the surgery. If we're talking about what happens actually, what in terms of what actually would happen, like they said, this was just brought up. This was just an idea. Nothing is set in stone just yet. But say somebody comes back from Tommy John surgery down the road, and these rules were implemented. You're already going to be pushing the guy's arm already to what it's probably capable of. You got to take it. You got to be cautious with some of these guys. And like I said, it goes back to having a feel for the game, and some pitchers are just not going to have it on any given day. So some people can still give up more than some people could give up more than earned runs. Well, I guess if it's a four earned run maximum, okay, I guess I can understand that a little bit. I don't know. I just feel that there's another rule change that you could possibly do. I just don't feel like this is necessary. I feel like more so than that. I just feel like this is kind of a waste of time if you ask me.
I mean, they already put the pitch clock into effect, and
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's already one thing with that. Then you obviously have this into play. It's like I think for the baseball, there's a reason why there's a crowd that's not being as in tune to the game like it once was, is because there's just added more stuff that doesn't need to be added in. And I think it's all comes down to money really at the end of the day. It's a money thing for the league, and hopefully that this doesn't happen. But if it does, we just got to be prepared potentially and see what happens. I mean, sometimes with these rules, they could be proposed and maybe try it for a year, and if things don't work out, it doesn't work out. I think with the pitch clock, I think a lot of people were in kind of favor of it, and then you kind of see what happens. It hasn't really been a massive difference, so at least so far. So maybe at least give it a chance. But I think for this point in time, it's not necessary because it takes some of the fun out. I mean, you look at the game Braves Giants the other night. Chris Sale and Blake Snell. There was no score from 6, 7 innings straight. They were absolutely cruising, and it's just like sometimes with that for baseball, pitcher's duel is one of the best things to watch in sports. A no hitter, a complete game. None of that wood stuff in the next couple of years with this overall would take into place. So I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, no, I agree. And going off the rule changes, I mean, I remember when the pitch clock was being introduced in Major League Baseball last year. Initially, I wasn't that big of a fan of it because I always liked, how baseball was kind of timeless, where there was no limit on anything. Because I was an old
Hmm.
school fan, and that's what we grew up with, obviously. Eventually I came to accept the pitch clock. It's still not my favorite thing in the world, but I've learned to realize, okay, it's definitely picked up the pace a little bit, and baseball definitely needed to pick it up, especially since strikeouts are so frequent now, and the game was
Yeah.
considerably slowing down with the amount of pitching changes that go on during each game and the amount of strikeouts going on during each game, the length of the at bats. So yeah, I definitely think that the pitch clock definitely has played a more beneficial role now. I mean, the downside to it is obviously just pushing pitchers more and more, and the fact that just more pitchers have just gone down. But I wouldn't necessarily blame the pitch clock entirely on that. I just feel that the way that pitchers are training nowadays with how hard they throw. We mentioned this all the way back at the beginning of the season when all these guys were going down with arm injuries. that their training regimen and how hard they throw is just killing them. And I just feel like if you want to turn pitchers from velocity pitchers into more control pitchers, because we've seen guys go through that phase throughout a lot. Guys who have been in the game for up to 20 years transition from power pitchers to more control pitchers. We saw that with guys like CC Sabathia, for instance. I feel like if they just learn to throw more like that, you don't necessarily need a 6 inning minimum limit to adopt that kind of style of pitching. I feel like guys can adapt. I mean, you're always going to need to adapt if you want to have success in Major League Baseball, and we've seen it with different pitchers. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents worth in regards to this subject. But like I said, they just brought this up. They just brought this topic up a couple of days ago, so nothing's set in stone. But we'll see what happens. But it's not going to happen this year, and in all likelihood, it won't happen next year. But this could be a possibility down the road, and we'll see what happens with that. So now we're going to move on to your Red Sox and Jared Duran, who got himself in hot water a couple of days ago for saying a anti-gay slur under his mouth during a game against, I believe it was it the Mariners or the Rangers? Oh no, the
Astros.
The Astros, the Rangers. I knew it was an AOS team. He was picked up on hot mics. The audio picked it up. There was a heckler behind home plate who was heckling Duran, and Duran said this, and you could hear it under the on the microphone. He didn't turn around directly at the fan and scream in his face this word, but he did say it nevertheless. I know you being a Red Sox fan, if you just want to touch on this topic first before I give my opinion on it.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, the Red Sox had an awful weekend against the Astros, and after the game is done, we find out first from Chris Cotillo, I think he's a beat reporter for the Sox very soon, saying that Jared Duran was caught with specifically the stuff going on. And at first, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And when I finally see a video that got posted on X, Twitter, I call, and it was essentially a fan yelling "tennis racket," pretty much heckling that, and then he turned around and I'm not going to say essentially what he said, but it was not, it wasn't cool. And, for a guy that I talked so highly about throughout the year, he was an All-Star, obviously had the MVP for the All-Star game, and just a fantastic season. This is obviously kind of a damper in a way to some of that throughout the year. Just very, very upsetting, very, it sucks. I know it was only for a couple of games, so obviously it could have been a lot worse. But there's no need for that type of stuff. I obviously understand that he said, after he got suspended the first game on the media, saying that, he didn't mean it. He really apologized to, that fan and to the Red Sox nation and to baseball, because I think that he just not only let the Red Sox down, but a whole major league community down. And so hopefully, I know that since he's came back, he's had kind of a tough start coming back. He's striking out a lot, and just hopefully it doesn't affect his overall play, because we're really banking on this guy, and he's done so great so far. And I know that he had to battle mental stuff last year, and it really affected his play. So he's able to kind of overcome that and really have a breakout type of season this year. And obviously with this happening this Sunday, just really unfortunate situation. I do think it was right to suspend him. I don't tolerate that whatsoever, no matter if it's on my team or not, but especially if it's on my team, regardless of who it is. And I know people are saying, well, it's just the word, just don't be soft about it. But you just don't know in terms of who you're going to say it to. You shouldn't be saying it at all. I mean, it's really unfortunate. But I'm not saying we have to move on from it, because I know Duran's been saying, he's been getting asked how do you feel about getting back in the field? Is this going to obviously affect you and all? He's just like, well, I'm still, there's a lot of people that are still coming at me that are really upsetting me. So I think that he's really taken to heart. And I think that hopefully he can learn from it and really start to kind of play the way he was playing before the All-Star break and so forth. So it sucks. And, I do believe in second chances, I will say. But, this is obviously something you just cannot have again.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I think that's probably the best word to use to describe it. And but I will say, he came up fourth, he came out front, and he manned up and he owned it. So I mean, he admitted that he was wrong and he apologized. And the Red Sox suspended him for 2 games, like you mentioned. I obviously I'm not making excuses for what happened, obviously, but like I'm sure he didn't mean for it to get out to the public. I'm like I said, I'm not making excuses for it, but it's just the way society is now. Like, you got to be careful with what you do and say out in public.
Yeah.
Everything is under a microscope now with phones and microphones. Almost like there's no, if you're mad at somebody or whatever, like, you got to keep it in your head at this point because anything can get picked up, and unfortunately this is a stain on his reputation moving forward. I mean, he's been one of the big bright spots for the Red Sox this season, and he's been one of the big reasons for people to watch the Red Sox this year. I mean, he obviously just won the All-Star Game MVP last month, and it's just been a great year for Duran, and he's finally come broken into his potential. He's found it this year. But yeah, it's unfortunately it's a big blemish on his personality, I guess, moving forward. People, I think, are going to taunt him about this for the foreseeable future. I mean, over time, depending on what he does on the field, it might overshadow it, and eventually people might forget about this. But it's not; they're not going to forget about this anytime soon. I mean, with social media just being at everybody's fingertips now, people just
Mhm.
love to point at people's downfalls. If there's one thing that I've learned when it comes to social media, and this is a perfect example of that. Everybody makes mistakes. I do believe he deserves a second chance. He screwed up. He owned up to it. Um, and this is obviously coming from a Yankee fan. Obviously, it's a word that you should never ever say. It's very offensive, and yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe
I
his.
mean, we had some of our fan base after saying that he should be traded, and people were going
Right,
crazy off the rails,
like,
and I'm just like, listen, he made a massive mistake. I understand it, but then the fan base saying that he has to be gone, this and that. I mean, let's come on, let's just be real. And I understand that the Red Sox have a very bright future ahead with their farm system, and they have to figure out some pieces that they might have to move on from. So then maybe that's the reason why a guy like Duran could be moved. But let's be real. Let's calm it down a bit.
yeah, like I said, he made a mistake, and look, like I said, I'm not making excuses for what he said, but I've heard people say worse things too, and they were got a slap on the wrist. All right, but he owns up to it. He did not deny it. He did not, say that I never said that and make the situation worse. He said he admitted it, and I truly do buy his sincere apologies. I do think he
Yeah.
genuinely is sorry. So it happens. We're all human. So I hate it when people just get on other people's cases and like refuse to just acknowledge the fact that he did what he had to do, which was apologize, and he was man enough to do that, because some people aren't man enough to admit when they're right or wrong. And I do admire about about I do admire Duran about that he admitted that he was wrong, and he owned up to it. So yeah, I think that Red Sox fans who were calling for him to be DFA'd or traded or whatever, just take it down a notch.
They're not real fans. They're not true fans as they think that. Understand that, you know, uh, off the field stuff, something like this is not tolerated. It's not acceptable whatsoever. But this has also happened actually with Kevin Pillar, if you remember, a
Mm.
couple of years ago. This has not just been a one type of thing. It's been with other players, and I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just saying that with a guy like and another thing too, Ryan, is if you realize what the part of the game was, the Red Sox at the point in time were getting blown out. And so, I think that there was just no juice in the building, and this Spanish all of a sudden just says something out, and then I'm not saying as an excuse of like for him Duran to say something back, but I think that Duran and a lot of the team was already just really frustrated with the way this whole entire weekend was going, and then he just kind of spewed something out he wasn't supposed to say, and then boom, that's where everything kind of came to play too.
Yeah, the fact that it wasn't garbage time, you can only imagine the frustration going on with Duran and the Red Sox. They're getting creamed by the Astros, and the fact that second half of the season has just not gone smoothly for Duran. He hasn't been able to refine that magic wand that he had, especially as the first half of the regular season started to come to an end. Obviously, it's been a struggle for him, and I think it was a mix of both of that combined together, and he just basically just had to get something out of his off his chest, and this was the last thing that he needed. Like I said, not making an excuse for him using the word in the first place, but it definitely was. There was just some frustration built up, and everybody has frustration built up inside of them every once in a while. So it was an accident. He owned up to it. He accepted his suspension. He's served his suspension yet? Did he already serve it?
Yeah, he served it the first 2 games in the Texas series.
Okay, he served his suspension. Move on. All right. It happened. It's over. He apologized. Move on. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about it anymore.
You're telling you don't want to hear about it. I'm a Sox fan. That's the last thing I want to hear at this point in time. We're still in a potential pennant race. We got a massive series this weekend against Baltimore and then against Houston. We need the best of Duran to have any chance of staying in the race.
Yeah, well, so that's what's going on with Duran and the Red Sox. Like I said, it was like Ben mentioned, they've had a rough going over the past couple of weeks. I mean, you did take 2 out of 3 from the defending champion Rangers, but the last game of that series definitely just left a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that, but we actually need to touch upon my Yankees for a little bit because Jazz Chisholm, he can join the list of guys like Andrew Benintendi and Scott Efros and Frankie Montas, mid-season acquisitions who have ended up on the injured list. This team and mid-season acquisitions are just cursed in every conceivable way. It's absolutely unfathomable. So obviously, a couple of weeks ago, the Yankees, before the trade deadline, the Yankees acquired Jazz Chisholm Jr. from the Miami Marlins in exchange for a catching prospect. I keep forgetting the guy's name off the top of my head. The one that the Yankees let go, and 2 other minor leaguers. But Chisholm obviously has been a lightning rod for the Yankees in that lineup. He obviously went off in that series against the Phillies where he had back-to-back 2 home run games. And he really has just been a nice piece to the Yankees roster. He added, obviously, Agustin Ramirez. That was the catcher. Because the Yankees had Carlos Narvaez, who was the backup catcher during Jose Trevino's absence. So I was just making sure. I knew it wasn't Narvaez, so that was Agustin Ramirez, who the Yankees gave up for Chisholm. But back to Chisholm, he's been a big plus for the Yankees. He obviously added a lot of speed and agility, and another left-handed bat in that Yankee lineup can never hurt as well, especially with the short portion right field. But and he also was playing some pretty good third base, obviously, which were before coming to the Yankees, he never played before. So things were going pretty good. But unfortunately, he hurt his UCL diving into home plate in the first game of the Yankees weekly series with the Chicago White Sox on Monday evening. Basically, it was a ground ball in the hole, I believe, at shortstop, and he rounded third base because the shortstop was still getting up to field. And then he started home, and he dove headfirst into home plate and hurt his UCL. It's an unwritten rule in baseball for years or decades now. Please don't dive into home plate head first because I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's going to come back to bite you in some capacity. And this is exactly what happened. People, as soon as he got up, he started flexing his elbow. Television cameras were showing it in the dugout, trying to loosen his or his shoulder, I guess, but or shoulder elbows. I think it's his elbow if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he went down. He's on the 10-day IL with what the Yankees are describing as an elbow sprain. Now he did get an MRI to see if he needed surgery, and obviously all Yankee fans were holding their breath and bracing for the inevitable of hearing the words Tommy John come out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you hear UCL injury, you basically associate that with Tommy John. But right now it looks like the Yankees might have dodged a bullet. I'm not saying they definitely have, but this is might. But still, this is not what the Yankees needed because the Yankees are the slowest team in all of baseball, and Jazz provided some much-needed speed in that lineup, along with Anthony Volpe. But Volpe's been struggling massively recently. So Jazz was helping out in the speed category. But unfortunately, he's going to be out for probably a good couple of weeks, I'd say, regardless. I don't expect to see him again during August, at least. He might come back in September, but it's still up in the air. It really just depends on how he's feeling, I'd say, at this point. And the Yankees are just basically waiting to see, how he recuperates from this. But regardless, I mean, Chisholm, even if Chisholm were to come back, you never know exactly what you're going to get with a guy who's got a damaged UCL, unless your name is Shohei Ohtani, where
Yeah.
damaged UCL is not going to phase you in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if Jazz is going to perform the way Ohtani does with a hurt UCL.
There's not a lot of people that can do what Ohtani does anyway, so.
No, I know. But yeah, I mean, what else can you say? I was honestly just Chisholm has always had a hard time staying healthy. He's never played a full season. He's had a lot of injury problems in the past. And part of that is attributed to the fact that he plays the game so damn hard. He throws his body around the field. He throws it around like a rag doll almost. He's always diving head first. He's doing a lot of jumping and leaping into bases and sliding. I mean, I remember, he didn't, dive or anything in this first instance that I'm going to talk about, but in that first series again, in that first or second game he played against the Red Sox, where he just got punched in the jaw with the elbow from the Red Sox. I forget who it was that he ran into, but but he puts his body through so much abuse on the field, and Chisholm is not a big guy. Chisholm, I think he's only like 5'11", maybe like 170, 180 pounds, something like that. So, like, his body, I think, is more prone to just getting hurt than some other guys, maybe, based on the way he plays. I guess if you're not as muscular as guys like Giancarlo Stanton or whatever, you might be able to have more flexibility. But still, like, he just plays so hard, and unfortunately, he just got hurt. I guess I kind of view it a little bit as careless, like, just slide with your feet first, please. It's unfortunate. I mean, the Yankees just deal with injuries at the worst possible time, it seems like. I hope he gets back before the end of the regular season, and I hope he would be able to get a couple of at-bats and a couple of games under his belt before the start of the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, Chisholm is on the IL, and as a result, the Yankees have recalled Oswald Peraza from AAA. So this is probably Peraza's last shot to make some kind of an impression. He's basically playing, I'd say, for his future with the Yankees at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough injury to have. And I feel like with Brian Cashman, Ryan, I feel like all these mid-acquisitions, I wouldn't say it's a curse, but there just tends to be something that happens to these guys, whether they're good or not. But Jazz was a really good piece. He was an energizer guy too, and he was hitting really well before he got hurt too. I mean, he had a couple homers in the Bronx, I think against the Angels, I'm pretty sure, and then Texas. So he was really starting to hit the ball well too right beforehand. So the timing of that kind of sucked also. Yeah, he just brought an overall balance in that mid part of the lineup. Obviously you guys got Stanton back right after Soto and Judge. So yeah, I mean, obviously for him getting hurt sucked, but it could have been a lot worse. Because I was thinking when I hear imaging, because I heard that in a tweet, you never hear imaging, and that's a good sign overall. So, but he did have a post game. Right after they found out about the injury, he didn't seem too concerned. But time is going to tell in terms of how long this is going to take. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the injury he went on the injured list on Wednesday, which was so today is August 16th, so that was August 14th. He went on the injured list, and this incident happened on August 12th. So yeah, it's a tough blow for the Yankees, and I mean, Yankee fans, are quick to criticize Brian Cashman, sometimes rightfully so. With some of these midseason acquisitions, obviously the Frankie Montas deal just blew up in our faces completely. But a lot of these other guys like Scott Efros, Lou Trevino, and Andrew Benintendi, I mean, those were just injuries that I remember watching that Benintendi injury 2 years ago in Tampa. Like, of course he hurts his hand on a swing. Like, why? It's just, of course.
Some were just fluke, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And I mean, this probably could have been more preventable than the Benintendi injury, but I'm not going to get on Cashman for this one. I mean, there wasn't. I spoke about this with Tom a couple of weeks ago when we did our episode together. I mean, before the trade deadline, I mentioned how I wasn't crazy about the Yankees acquiring Jazz Chisholm. And don't get me wrong, I still think Chisholm is kind of overrated, even as a Yankee fan. But when you look at the trade deadline acquisition market, there weren't too many offensive upgrades that were available, or not too many needle movers, I'd say,
right,
on the offensive side. Chisholm was probably one of the very few needle movers on the offensive side. So the Yankees grabbed him, and the Yankee offense, as we know, can be hit or miss. It can be Jekyll and Hyde, as we've seen plenty of times throughout the regular season. There's times where they will explode for 10 plus runs, and then there are times where they'll just get shut down. So, any chance they have to get offensive help, they will take, and I'll back them up for that. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is at this point. I can't say that I'm that surprised. That's really all I got to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, Jazz right now currently is having a 113 WRC plus, so he's 13 points above league average right now. He's batting 245. He only has 4 home runs, but actually, wait, no, that didn't sound.
He's got more than 4.
Yeah, I think it was 4 specifically, maybe I think 4 with the Yankees. That was written here.
Yeah, he's got more than 4 at this point with the Yankees. I think he's got like 7 or 8 actually with the Yankees at this point. But he has a career high in home runs right now this season.
Okay, yeah, yeah, he definitely has a lot more than 4. But I was looking at Fangraphs there. Maybe it was just kind of the latest stretch. But yeah, regardless of the fact is, it's just a tough loss to them all. 7, thanks, Tom. But yeah, so it's just a tough loss right now for you guys. But I do think that the way that your top half of the lineup is playing, you guys should be able to overcome this at least for a little bit. And then he's kind of a bonus just to have in that mid part. You said Peraza too. I mean, this is obviously potentially the last chance to have an impression. And if he comes out and plays well, then maybe bring some value to another team because it doesn't sound like he has a lot of value for the long term with you guys. So we'll see.
Yeah, I believe the Yankees have mishandled his use in the major leagues ever since they first brought him up. Coincidentally, they brought him up during that series when Benintendi went down with that hands injury 2 years ago, and I just feel like the Yankees have never used him properly. They've kept him. I feel like they've kept him in the minors for too long, and he hasn't really had the chance to see big league pitching enough to really accustom himself to how fast big leaguers throw. And I feel like it's just hurt his development. And I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well, but I can't say I got my hopes up too high with him getting this opportunity. I would have preferred Jason Dominguez to come up over Peraza. I feel like a lot of Yankee fans would. I
think a lot of people want him over Alex Verdugo because I think people are really getting.
Yeah, Verdugo. That ship has sailed with me. I've had it with Alex Verdugo, honestly. I can see why you guys were not crazy about him. He's been a big disappointment this year.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I kind of warned a lot of Yankee fans that he gives his all for the first couple of months. It's almost like a trick in a way. I was like, he's going to give you energy and this and that, and then it's just not sustainable. I don't know why that's the case. The excuse that he had the other night against the White Sox with the bunt. Did you see what he said after the fact? He said that
I saw that, but I think that that was actually a little misinterpreted. I think people, I heard about this from the guy who, a Yankee podcaster. His name is Derek Lewandowski. I watch his post-game videos. He's really good. He's a big Yankee fan. He's had experience of playing. I think he was in the minors, if I'm not mistaken, for a little bit. So he knows baseball. But he explained this pretty well. When he said lazy, I don't think he intentionally meant I was lazy and just decided to pop the ball up. I know that's what a lot of and other baseball fans interpreted. But Lewandowski made a good point in his video. He said, usually sometimes when you try and square up a bunt, sometimes it depends on where the ball is hit on the bat. And sometimes when a ball is bunted off a bat, like straight up in the air in that instance, the bat can get a little lazy and loosen up on your grip. And as a result, the ball can just make a lazy pop up in the air and come right back down to the pitcher.
He didn't get it squared. That's essentially what it was.
That's basically what I think he was that's what I think Verdugo was talking about. So, I think that he wasn't intentionally trying to be lazy in that at bat. But it's been a tough season for Verdugo. This has been the worst season of his career easily, by far. I mean, he's only hitting like 235, I think, at this point right now, and his average is as low as Gleyber Torres's, which is unfathomable. So it's been a tough year, and this is definitely Verdugo's only season as a Yankee. So Dominguez, I think
the Benintendi-esque run for the Yankees, just that little 1 year that he's out.
Benintendi, I don't think Benintendi even made 2 months with the Yankees.
That's wild.
So yeah, but Chisholm is hurt. I hope he comes back within a couple of weeks and is able to make the postseason roster. If he is, that's awesome, and I definitely think that'll give the Yankees some energy. If not, then it is what it is. You got to deal with what you have. But what is awesome though is Aaron Judge. He became the fastest player in Major League Baseball history to hit 300 home runs in his career, and he accomplished this feat on Wednesday night against the White Sox. He hit a laser into the left field bullpen, and that was during the Yankees' 10-2 win against the White Sox. And it was kind of bizarre how he got the home run because the White Sox actually intentionally walked Juan Soto to get to him, because which is not something that you see anybody do. Juan Soto,
The White Sox.
and Aaron
I
Judge.
love them.
Juan Soto and Aaron Judge are two of the most feared hitters in all of Major League Baseball. So I guess it's pick your poison. And the White Sox basically picked the poison of Aaron Judge over Juan Soto because Soto was beating the crap out of them.
That's true.
Games. Soto had already 4 home runs before that. Soto hit 3 home runs in the second game of the series. That was the first career 3 home run game that he had in his career. And then he led off. Well, he didn't lead off, but then he followed that up with a home run in the first inning of the final game of the series. So I guess the White Sox just didn't want to deal with that. But basically, as soon as the White Sox walked Soto, I immediately said to myself, Judge is going yard. There's no way he's not hitting a home run here. And on a 3-0 pitch, mind you, he hits a laser to left field for his 300th career home run. And I got to tell you, I've done a lot of thinking about this. I've seen a lot of great baseball players in my lifetime. Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, David Ortiz, Albert Pujols, Ichiro Suzuki, the list goes on and on. I've seen some great players in my lifetime. I think now I really have to start considering Aaron Judge to be one of the best baseball players I've ever seen in my lifetime, easily. Now, he hits home runs at a pace that not many Major League Baseball players have ever hit home runs at. He's a great hitter. He's a great fielder. He's also just a great guy in general. And, I hope that he's basically done all there is to do besides, making it to the World Series and winning it. That's the last thing that's missing on his resume. So, I hope the Yankees just, check. I hope he's able to check that off. I know you don't, but I hope that. But yeah, what else can you say about Aaron Judge? He's, in my opinion, he's going to go down as one of the best Yankees of all time. His number 99 surely will be retired one day, and he'll definitely be in Monument Park, I'd say too. And he's amazing. What else can you say about him?
Yeah, I'm coming from a non-Yankee perspective, but I think that he's just not only blessed by Yankee fans, but just by baseball. And even as a Sox fan, he is. I can't hate the guy. He's absolutely incredible. He's tormented my team for a while, but he's tormented a ton of teams. I just think that as a player, he's very talented. He could field. The only criticism, Ryan, if anything, about Aaron Judge, and there's very little, but because I'm a non-Yankee fan, I will say a little bit just to rub it in a little bit. Is his postseason splits are a little up and down. I will say that's obviously not me. That's being as critical as I can with him. And obviously not the World Series. But outside of that, he is just one of the most feared hitters in the game. He's absolutely elite at hitting. And he's just, when there's a certain situation that's up and the Red Sox are pitching against him, for instance, when Zach Kelly came in, when Aaron Judge was at the plate, I think that there pretty much was a 99.9% chance Zach Kelly was not getting this guy out. Even though I like Zach Kelly and he could throw hard, but he threw the most meatball pitch right down the middle, and you're expecting Aaron Judge not to miss that. The ball was one of the farthest balls ever at Fenway Park. So, I can't hate the guy. He's absolutely incredible. And he obviously got a massive payday from you guys too. So, you guys did a really good job of doing that because, wish we could have done that with somebody named Mookie Betts, but that's another story.
Well, you guys got another guy named Rafael Devers who's tormented my team for years, and Devers.
That's fair.
And I think Devers is also going to join that list of best baseball players that I've seen in my lifetime as well. But yeah, Judge's popularity is almost unmatchable. Not many guys can rival how popular he is, not only with Yankee fans, but in Major League Baseball.
And in New York sports, too. You got to take it into account. He's playing with one of the biggest markets out there. like Juan Soto obviously is you have the same you have two of the most prolific hitters in baseball too. So he's doing this with one of the most prolific hitters in baseball. Any Met players just does not match with him whatsoever. I mean, you look at overall in terms of New York athletes, Ryan. Do you feel like there's anybody else in New York sports? Obviously I don't know in terms of like the Rangers, the Knicks, the Jets, the Giants. I don't think there's anybody else that can come close to him in terms of like number one.
No, I mean, the only guy I think in terms of New York sports, he's easily among the top 3 most beloved New York sports athletes. I'd say it's him and Jalen Brunson, who are the top 2 most beloved New York athletes. And I mean, but because right now the Giants are just driving New York crazy. So, and the Rangers, I guess I'd say the top 3 most beloved New York athletes right now are Judge number 1, Brunson number 2, and Chris Kreider number 3 with the Rangers.
That's Soto in top 3. That's kind of shocking.
I guess Soto. I'll put Soto over Kreider. I'm just like thinking like I'm just considering all 4 New York sports and trying to spread some love equally. But yeah, I'll go Judge. I'll go Judge, Brunson, and Soto for the top 3 most loved New York athletes. I mean, Judge has been in New York now since 2017, full time. That is, he obviously made a debut in 2016, and in his first at bat, I still remember he hit a home run to go back to back with Tyler Austin, your boy, in that back to back home run sequence right after. And I honestly had a feeling that was going to happen. I was just watching it, and I remember seeing Aaron Judge when he first stepped up to the plate, and I was like, man, this guy is huge. But obviously, but nobody really expected him to turn into this, I think. I mean, I thought when Judge first came up, I thought he would be a solid, role player. I thought he would be here for a couple of years and he would be able to provide some decent power. I thought he had the potential to be maybe a 30 home run guy or a 40 home run guy, but I did not expect him to get 52 in his first full season. Obviously, breaking Roger Maris's American League record of 61 in 2022. He got to 62. And, right now he's well on his way to eclipsing 50 again this year. I don't know if he's going to get 62 again this year, but he's going to come pretty damn close. And he's just amazing, and he's just really down to earth, dude. He's always a guy. If you're an opposing pitcher or a fan of an opposing team, he comes up to the plate, you just tense up and you just think to yourself, do not give him anything to hit right down the middle because he will crush this ball into oblivion. He's scary. He's scary to watch sometimes if you're a fan of an opposing team because he's just so huge and it doesn't take much for him to hit a home run. It's effortless.
Well, the only other guy to me, Ryan, and I obviously know that, they're both elite hitters, but Yordan Alvarez absolutely scares the living you-know-what out of me. Just because his OPS at Fenway is 1,000 plus. He's Alex Cora was saying after the Astros series, he's David Ortiz 2.0. Like, he's that esque. Like, there's no, you left on luck. The guy could just park one center field to it. Nothing to take away from Judge, but Yordan, at Fenway is just another animal.
Yeah, Yordan definitely. I think Yordan kills the Red Sox more than the Yankees do. But But Yordan has killed us. But Yordan has killed us a couple of times. Don't worry. He definitely has hit a couple of his share of home runs into the second deck at Yankee Stadium, plenty of times. It's very effortless, and
so crazy.
He's another guy who scares me. But yeah, Judge is the fastest player in Major League Baseball history to hit 300 home runs, and that's pretty crazy considering all the big names who have hit 300 home runs in their career. I think without question, Judge will get to 400 as well. He might get to 500, I'd say. If he keeps up this pace, he could probably get to 500 maybe within like 4 years, I'd say, or something like that. I still think he has a few more years like this in the tank. I don't know how much more I don't know how many more 50 home run seasons he's got overall. Judge is 32 years old, but he's not slowing down right now, so it's still pretty fun to watch. And I think as all said and done, right now I'd say he's on a Hall of Fame pace. We'll see what happens. Obviously, he still has a lot more years on that contract, but so far he's lived up to it, with the exception of just not winning the World Series, which is ultimately what everybody wants for him and what he wants for himself. So we'll see what happens with him and the Yankees moving forward. But we need to shift out west now because there are some really big headlines going on in both West divisions. The Seattle Mariners are going through another massive collapse. What else is new? The Mariners, who at one point this season held a 10-game lead in the American League West, are now trailing the Houston Astros in the American League West. And at the time of this recording, they are trailing the Astros by 3 full games.
Wow.
So the Astros have officially come all the way back, and they are starting to put some distance between themselves and the rest of the pack. The Astros are currently on an 8-game winning streak. They are just coming off a nice sweep of the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Mariners are coming off a miserable series in which they got swept by the Detroit Tigers, getting outscored by the Tigers by a combined score of 20-4. Now, granted, one of those games. Now, granted, that was because one of the games the score was 15-1. But the Mariners and that was, I think it was George Kirby who got lit up like a Christmas tree, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the worst starts by any starting pitcher in baseball this season by far. But the Mariners offense has always been a problem for this entire season, and it's finally starting to show. The Mariners did not go out and get a bat, really. I mean, they got Randy Arozarena at the trade deadline as their
and Justin Turner, an old Justin Turner.
Justin Turner. A 39-year-old Justin Turner and an inconsistent Randy Arozarena, who honestly fits in perfectly with this Mariners lineup. He literally is exactly what the Mariners are, hit or miss. And the Mariners have just not had a consistent offense all year, and it is finally starting to show and bite them in the ass. I can't say I'm surprised that this happened. The Astros are now 10 games over 500, and honestly, I can't see, barring the Mariners have some kind of miracle comeback in September, I just think that this is going to be another division title for the Astros. I think the Astros are just a better team than the Mariners. The Astros have more depth. They have a better offense. They've got, in the pitching, I would give the Mariners, the edge, I guess, in the rotation over the Astros. But the Astros pitching has gotten a lot better. And, the Astros are no slouch. If I were to pick, if it's a postseason series, I'm picking the Astros over the Mariners because the Mariners, they don't hit. They do not hit.
And the Astros just have the experience too. Once the Astros come until October, it's like Darth Vader essentially looking down. They're like, oh, remember me? That's the Astros.
And granted, the Mariners have had some bad luck. Obviously, we touched upon it a couple of weeks ago with the injuries that they've had. They obviously, is Julio still on the IL? I'm not.
No, he came back actually against the Mets. What?
Because the Mariners actually played well against the Mets. They swept the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. But they swept the Mets, but then they just lost 3 straight to the Tigers. The Tigers are the epitome of mid. So that's not acceptable at all. You got to be able to take advantage of the teams that you face who are kind of mediocre. The Mariners have just not done that. And honestly, I'm no Mariner fan by any stretch of the imagination, but it's so frustrating because this team has only been in the playoffs once in the past, was it 22 seasons, I believe?
Probably.
Yes, yeah. 2022. They had one postseason series victory. They swept 2 games in Toronto, and then they blew game 1 of the division series against Houston. Still to this day, I don't understand why service went to Robbie Ray in that situation.
Yep.
It did not phase Jordan at all. And literally, it's the same thing every single year. The Mariners just do not get the job done. They just have not been able to get they haven't been able to get much out of their offense. It's so bad. And the fact that the Mariners are still in this race, for the American League West, contribute that to the pitching. Give credit to their arms. They've had their rotation is very strong, with the exception of the bad start that Kirby had on Monday. But it's frustrating, even as somebody who doesn't root for the Mariners. Can you guys can you guys just finish the job or something like that? Can you just once lock up a division title? Because the thing is, the American League wildcard race is so tight. And, the teams in the American League Central, teams like the Twins, the Royals, the Guardians, and the Red Sox, depends on, what the Red Sox obviously do moving forward as well. It's so tightly compact that really the only way a West Division team is going to be able to qualify for the playoffs is if you win the American League West. Because, the American League West, like I said, the Astros are only 10 games over 500. And, the Royals and the Guardians and the Twins, they're more than 10 games over 500. So, the only way you're going to qualify is if you win the West. So for the Mariners, it's either win the West or you're done, really, at this point. And, like I said, if it comes down to this, I'm taking the Astros over the Mariners.
Yeah, and we also didn't talk about a team that just was defending champs last year that's had a very underwhelming year, and that's the Texas Rangers. I
Yep.
mean, we beat them both this year in both series. They yes, granted they've had some injuries, but yeah, it is. Dolis Garcia just does not look good at all
No,
consistent this year. They've had
he's
just had a
always
lot
been
of guys.
he's been overrated, if you ask me. I love that
um,
word.
Josh John and Nate Lowe and all these guys, they just haven't had the same type of year, and their pitching's been underwhelming. So the Mariners, as bad as it's been, it could be a lot worse. Granted, with the way that the other team in Texas has been doing. So, the Mariners, I think their pitching has been a reason why that you can kind of maybe make a case of why they can still be in it. But the Astros currently right now are just on a rampage type of pace. They're getting just pitching, they're getting their offense going. I mean, Alex Bregman had a really tough start to the year, was absolutely been going off. Altuve doing his thing, Jordan obviously doing his thing. And Yonder Diaz is an X factor for them too. And the thing is, Ryan, that they don't even have Kyle Tucker coming back, and he's going to be coming back very soon. So, I mean, that Astros team is just, they're going to be a tough out. In a year that, remember, Ryan, we had thoughts in the first couple of months that maybe this was the time that they were going to be absolutely done and
I never
this and
thought
that. And I don't think we ever thought that, but maybe in the back of the mind is just like, maybe this is the year that can kind of be like, I wouldn't say off the rails, but now here they're back. They're back more than ever. And, as tough it is for all baseball fans want to see it. But it's also not surprising at the same time either.
Yeah. To just quickly touch on how bad the Mariners offense is as a team. That remember, this is a team right now, like I mentioned, that is still, fighting for the division and still fighting for a playoff spot to show just how valuable their pitching has been. The American League West right now, like I said, the Mariners are 3 back of the Astros. The Mariners are 63 and 59. So they're only 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm horrible at math. 4 games over 500.
Work. Mm-hmm.
So they're a winning record. They have a winning record. But to show just how bad their offense is, they are dead last in Major League Baseball in team batting average with a 216 team batting average. That is worse than the Chicago White Sox, who are on pace to be one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball history.
Wow.
The White Sox have a higher team batting average than the Mariners. The White Sox are at 220, and the Mariners are at 216.
Mm.
And and then if you look at the pitching side, the Mariners lead Major League Baseball in team ERA at 3.46. So it's incredible, honestly. It's very fascinating how you're the best at something and the complete worst at another thing.
Jared DeHart is the hitting coach for the Mariners. He must be going through so much crap right now.
It's amazing. That's baseball for you.
Mm.
So that's what's going on in the American League West. And meanwhile, in the National League West, it's a dogfight. The Padres and the Diamondbacks have both been red hot ever since the start of the second half of the season. The Diamondbacks, I've been very critical about them this season, saying how they have looked nothing like the defending National League champions this season. They have finally started to look like the defending National League champions. They are 20-5 since the All-Star break. And the Padres have just been as good. They are 19-5, I believe, or 19-4, one of the two. But both teams right now are now pushing the Dodgers for the National League West title. And all I can say is it's about time some teams are challenging the Dodgers for the National League West Division title. Both teams are the Diamondbacks and the Padres right now are both 69 and 53. They're both just 2 games back of the Dodgers. And all I can say is it's cool to see, this fight go on in the National League West. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see some teams challenge the Dodgers. I did not want to see the Dodgers just run away with another division title. Granted, I still think the Dodgers will win the National League West, but it warms my heart to finally show for other West Division teams, show some pride and go after the division championship. And the Padres and the Diamondbacks, they've had good years. I mean, granted, it's been a struggle for the Diamondbacks. They had a really tough first half of the season. It wasn't really until, late June, early in July that they really started to take off and find their identity and turn into the team that they are now. But right now, I would say nobody wants to face either the Dodgers, the Padres or the Diamondbacks. Both of them have just been that red hot right now. They've been the hottest teams in baseball right now, and it's gonna be a bloodbath for playoff positioning. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about pretty much in our standing reports every single week. Well, it's the Dodgers is pretty much ahead. Water's wet now. Water's not wet at least for this week because they're just looked around that they're 9-1 both teams in the last 10 games, so they're really playing well at the right time. The Padres have had some actually theoretic comebacks thanks to Jackson Merrill, who's been a young stud for them, having some massive hits late in games. Their pitching's been really good. Obviously, Dylan Cease had the no hitter last month, so. Um, they're really starting to kind of turn things around. And the Diamondbacks, of course, we have to face the teams that weren't great the first half of the season in our month now. Because obviously we have the Orioles this weekend. Then we got Houston again in Houston. And then we have the Diamondbacks at Fenway right afterward. Of course. That's the Red Sox luck.
Fortunately for us, we had the Diamondbacks the second series of the season, and then we had the Padres at the end of May. So we're all done with them. We don't have to worry about them. But the Yankees actually have had a relatively light schedule, and they really haven't taken much advantage of it. If I have to be honest, they haven't dominated as much as they should. But that's really Major League Baseball this season. There's no clear-cut favorites this year. Everybody is kind of their best and their own worst enemy.
Right.
It's seasons like this where I'm more invested and I'm more excited because anybody can be beaten on any day. I feel like so often in years past, really dating back to like 2018, there's always a matchup that is just so one-sided that one team is going to beat the other team no matter what. That's not the case this year. I mean, the Dodgers, are just one of those teams where when they're pitted up against somebody, they're going to win. But the Dodgers haven't been that dominant force this year that everybody thought they would be, and that's also the case with the Astros. The Astros, you look at them and get pitted up against another team. You would think, okay, the Astros are definitely going to win that series. That's not the case this year. They're not the dominant team everybody thought they would be. And it also goes for the Orioles. The Orioles, everybody thought that, they would be, the team to be in the American League East. They very well still may be. Right now they're tied with the Yankees for first in the AL East, but they're not, they aren't as, dominant as they were last year. The Orioles kind of, they're still in first place, like I mentioned, in a tie, but, they're fighting for it much more now this year than they were last year. I mean, they actually, the Rays kind of pushed them a little bit towards like the middle.
They couldn't take advantage. The Orioles couldn't take advantage of the awful month the Yankees had. Well, you guys essentially had. Was it the 1 month that you guys were just absolutely putrid, or was it 2 months?
It was about 2 months.
Wow. And they didn't take advantage of that.
And the Yankees are still not and the Yankees are still, are still treading water here and there. They still have not found like a consistent winning streak. I mean, they did have a 5-game winning streak at one point, which was taking the last 2 of that Fenway series and then sweeping the Phillies. But, you look at what else they've done after that. I mean, they had a 9-game homestand and they only went 5-4. I mean, they took 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays, which I can live with. You lost 2 out of 3 to the Angels, though, which was inexcusable. That is inexcusable, regardless of what. And then you took 2 out of 3 from the Rangers, which I could live with too, because it's the Rangers. You took 2 out of 3 in Chicago. You should have swept them, but you got your ass kicked and humiliated in the first game. Because of course, why wouldn't that happen? It's the Yankees. They need to make it embarrassing. But, I mean, they took 2 out of 3 against the White Sox, and now they have a 3-game series against the Tigers this weekend. So, yeah, I mean, but then they also have the Guardians next week, which is going to be a challenge. That'll probably be tough. Yeah, that'll be tough. And then they have the Rockies, though, afterward. So, I mean, the Yankees just...
Is it in Colorado, or is it at home?
No, it's at Yankee Stadium. But the Yankees
have I think then you guys will be okay. In Colorado, you never know, because we got our ass whooped in Colorado.
So, I mean, but in Major League Baseball this season, it's anybody's for the taking, really. Anybody can be beaten on any day, and I think that's going to make for a more exciting postseason. I'm excited, as we get into September and get down the final stretch. I'm excited and nervous, obviously, because I want my team to win. But, it's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching and a lot of reliance on other teams. Obviously, you're not facing your division rivals as much as you used to with the balanced schedule now. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting as we get down to our final month of the regular season. But the National League West is finally starting to have more than just the Dodgers to talk about. So,
yeah, it should be fun. I'm hopeful, like you were mentioning, that any team could be beat, and I think that makes it a really fun, stretch coming up before October happens.
Yeah, and I just saw this pop up. It looks like Tristan Casas is coming back for the Red Sox.
Finally. That's all I will say. Yes, he is coming back, according to Chris Cotillo this morning. He is coming back. And I think that's a massive boost. I mean, no offense to Dom Smith, because I think that Dom has given us some stability at first base, but
He gave you as much
you
as
bring
he
this
can.
guy. Yeah, yeah. But he's coming back, and it couldn't be at more of a perfect time because this guy, he looked great in AAA, but we were waiting and waiting and waiting. We finally got the core three up with Meyer, Teal, and Anthony out. They've been playing now at AAA this whole entire week. Meyer hopefully will play some games this weekend. But Casas was down the farm for like 2-3 weeks, and finally he's coming back to me.
That's definitely good news for you guys. But we're out of time here. That's going to do it for this episode of Hitting for the Cycle. Ben, as always, it's a pleasure to work with you. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in, and take care, and we'll see you next time.